All right, today we're going to talk about something that might just completely change how you look at your own life story. It's this idea called the path dependency of purpose. We're going to unpack how that winding, sometimes super frustrating journey you've been on, well, it isn't a series of mistakes. It's the very thing that has been forging your unique purpose all along. So let's start with a thought that I'm willing to bet a lot of us have had. It doesn't have to be about software, right? It could be about art or starting a business, anything. It's that nagging feeling that you're somehow behind schedule on your own life. Yeah, I thought so. It's such a common, totally human feeling of regret. We look at where we are now and we just imagine this straighter, faster line to get here. But what if that entire way of thinking is just wrong? So let's really dive into this feeling. On the surface, it seems pretty simple, right? But if you dig just a little bit deeper, you start to see that there's a whole lot more going on under the hood. At first glance, when you say, I wish I'd started earlier, it just feels like you're wishing for a better timeline. You're thinking, man, if I'd only had a few more years to practice, more time to build this thing, I'd be so much further along by now. And this is where it gets really interesting. That little thought, that little regret, it's not as harmless as it seems. It's actually a cognitive trap, one that can seriously mess with how you see your past, and even more importantly, your present. So, what is this trap exactly? We're going to call this the what-if fallacy. This is the little engine that drives all that regret. And, really understanding it is the absolute key to reframing your entire journey. Okay, so here's the deal. The fallacy assumes that life is this simple straight line. It kind of imagines taking your current self, with all the wisdom and desires you have right now, and just plonking that person down 10 years in the past. But life just doesn't work that way, does it? It's never a straight line. And when you're stuck in that what-if thinking, you're completely missing a huge, powerful force that's been shaping you this whole time, probably without you even noticing it. And that powerful force, it's called path dependency. This is the absolute core of what we're talking about today. And I think it's a real game changer for how you think about your personal and professional growth. In other words, you are who you are today because of the path you took, not in spite of it. Every single detour, every challenge, every so-called wrong turn was actually a necessary ingredient to create the person you are right now, with a totally unique viewpoint that only you have. Think about how this actually works. Let's say you took a job that at the time felt like a huge mistake. But in that job, you learned some unexpected skill. Maybe it was dealing with difficult people or mastering some obscure software. That experience gave you a perspective no one else had, which then led you to discover a problem that you are now incredibly passionate about solving. You see, without that wrong first step, you never would have gotten to step 4. And that right there is the whole idea. Those detours, they weren't wasted time. They were the construction process. They were literally building the unique combination of skills and vision that only you possess. This brings us to a really, really important distinction. The difference between just having the tools and knowing what to actually build with them. This is where you can really see the power of path dependency. So think of it like this. Skills are the how. They're the tools in your toolbox, like coding or writing or design. You can learn those skills on all sorts of different paths. But purpose? Purpose is the why. It's that deep personal understanding of which problems are actually worth solving. And that why is something that's forged exclusively by your one-of-a-kind journey. This is the absolute key. If you had started learning software 10 years earlier, sure, you might be a brilliant coder by now, but you wouldn't have had the life experiences that showed you the one specific problem that you now feel a burning desire to solve. You'd have a hammer, but no clue which nail truly needs to be hit. Okay, so what do we do with all of this? How do we actually take this idea and apply it to our lives? How do we make that shift from feeling regret to feeling, well, a powerful sense of self-awareness? It really comes down to changing the story you tell yourself. You shift from that old mindset, I wish I'd started earlier, to a new one. The journey I took gave me unique skills and insights I would not have had otherwise. You stop wishing for a different past, and you start seeing the incredible, irreplaceable value of the one you actually lived. And this right here is the ultimate takeaway. Your specific, messy, meandering, imperfect journey is not a liability. It's not something you need to apologize for. It is your unique strategic advantage. Nobody else has your exact mix of experiences, and because of that, nobody else sees the world in exactly the way that you do. So as we start to wrap this up, let's turn this idea back on you, on your own story. How does this whole concept of path dependency apply to the journey that you've been on? And I'll leave you with this question to think about. Think back to that job you hated, or that project that failed, or that city you only lived in for a year. What seeds were actually being planted on those so-called detours? What parts of your why were being forged in the moments you felt the most lost? Trust me, your path makes sense. It's what led you right here.